achieved.
So UFC 247 saw a fair bit of controversy up and down the card. I think the most glaring aspect of it was the idea, first the judging, obviously the judging, but we get some bad judging. You know, you look in the prelims, you go Andre Ewell versus Jonathan Martinez. I had Ewell. I didn't think he won the fight. You know, I could see a 29-28 in his favor possibly, but 30-27 was a disastrously terrible scorecard. And I felt Jonathan Martinez probably should have got the nod in that matchup. And then we advance to the, what was the next one? Andrea Lee versus Lauren Murphy. Split decision in favor of Lauren Murphy. And this is when we get the Dominic Cruz, Joe Rogan call-out of a judge who's taking these prolonged moments during the fight and not watching the action. And in a fight that's razor close, and especially when you have two ladies who predominantly go to decision, you should be laser focused as an official. And we already know Texas and Houston has a reputation for some very questionable and controversial judging decisions. And then we get this scenario, and that's absolute bullshit. And Andrea Lee has every right to be upset, calling for pictures and evidence of this scenario so she can follow up with it. I had her winning the fight. I'm not completely destroyed over the idea that she didn't get the nod. But the fact that one judge gave Lauren Murphy all 3 rounds when Lauren Murphy's face was getting absolutely smashed. And again, I get it. I could absolutely see Lauren Murphy edging out a fight. I just don't feel it was appropriately judged when you get that information. Same thing with James Krause. Split decision in that fight as well. I thought he obviously won the first round. I thought he did enough later in the fight to earn a decision, a very close fight. Again, controversial, close, but not nearly as bad as the other one. We get to the main card, Derek Lewis, similar situation. He did more damage. He was more aggressive. Latifi obviously had some successes. The main event, though, I felt Ige, they got the Ige decision right against Merab Bekti. I had Ige, and I know people go, oh, you had Ige, you were happy with that. The main event, I had Jones winning it. The 49-46 probably didn't make a lot of sense. I had Jones winning. I had Reyes winning round 1. I thought Reyes did actually more in round 3, but going back, I need to go back and watch it again one more time because I was in an environment where I was a bit distracted. But I had Jones winning it 3-2. Whether it was rounds, I had him definitely winning rounds 4 and 5, and whether it was round 2 or round 3, I know I had one of those 2 rounds scored for Jones as well. It was a close fight. I'd love to see a rematch, but honestly, the judging situation just pisses you off because, as people have pointed out, and as we're seeing with the Houston Astros as well, when you make a decision to do something poorly or you cheat the system, you don't do your job effectively, you're costing other people their livelihood. And in Dominic Reyes' situation, you possibly cost him a championship. In Andrea Lee, she's now lost back-to-back bouts and could very well never get an opportunity to get back to that level where she's within title contention because of a judge not opting to be on his phone or doing whatever he was doing, not paying attention to the action. And with the Houston Astros, again, this is an entirely different sport. Multiple baseball players. We just saw a lawsuit now being filed by a Toronto Blue Jay pitcher, a former Toronto Blue Jay pitcher. He's never pitched in the majors since the last time Houston busted him up and basically cheated the system. There are rippling effects and repercussions to all of your actions, and in this case, it really could mess some people up. So again, I hope something can come of this, where there's some corrections can be made, because it just seems consistent. And I was looking as I was doing predictions, and I was going, Houston's notorious for terrible judging decisions. Certainly a concern. And then again, my record was not great. But when in a 12-fight card and there are 8 upsets, that makes it a difficult fight night to handicap. Easily, I could have been a little bit better, but we'll have to see how it plays out next time. But again, tough fight to handicap overall, tough card overall. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. Always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we are breaking down the upcoming UFC Fight Night 167 event, which will go down in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, the promotion's first trip to Rio Rancho. And we'll give you my 6 main card predictions on this episode of the show. As per usual, all of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. If you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe to my videos. Click the notification bell to get updated information right away. You can also follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions, and I will post things ASAP so you can see when everything goes up. My preliminary predictions are done in written form on my website. You can also check out my records, my returns, also my website, my bet packs. And I'm coming off a very poor showing. I've had a lot of success. I think that snapped a mini streak ahead of winning events. Nonetheless, we'll be back at it. Just $15. I gave you betting breakdowns for each fight, prop bets, parlays, fantasy picks, confidence picks. I have some betting scenarios I track. All of that stuff is available for just $15. And again, if you're a casual bettor or a hardcore bettor, I post parlays geared to both styles of betting. So there's lots available for you on my website if you're into that. And if you're having success on your own, keep doing it. Don't buy my shit. Keep doing what you're doing, because the fact of the matter is, all I want to see is people having success, winning money, and putting it in your pocket. on that note, we've got some 6 very good fights coming up. Let's get to that first main card prediction. The first fight of the main card takes place in the UFC's lightweight division as funky Lando Vannata, 10-4-2, takes on the returning 15-6 Hawaiian Yancy Medeiros. Now, it's a pretty fun fight to open the main card between 2 action fighters who are going to go out there and show us a lot of interesting things, and will probably see something unique and fun, and just overall it'll be a good matchup. Now, Vannata is entertaining, but his record is not good in the UFC. Overall, he has entered the octagon on 8 occasions. He has won just twice. He's 2-4-2. Now, he had that amazing start to his UFC Octagon run with a short notice fight against Tony Ferguson where he had Ferguson hurt, but he hasn't been able to replicate that success. He has 1 win in his last 6 matchups, and he's coming off a loss to Mark Diakese where he was badly outclassed. For Yancy Medeiros, he's taken a 13-month hiatus from competition. He's had back-to-back losses after a trio of wins that saw him take out Sean Spencer, Eric Silva, and I wrote Sean Spencer again, so I'm mistaking. I'm forgetting who the other individual was he defeated in that stretch. My apologies. Now, Yancy, he's recently moved back down to lightweight after a stint at... actually, it was Alex Oliveira. My apologies. Now, Yancy's moved back down to lightweight after a stint at welterweight, which I think is a better division for him in the sense that he has to take advantage of his physical attributes if he can make the cut successfully, which so far seems to be not a problem. He is 1 inch taller than Vannata, but he will have a sizable 4-inch reach advantage. Now, he is the older fighter by 5 years. Now, both guys are willing to mix it up, and they can work on the mat or feet. They can do a lot of different things effectively. I would say Vannata's probably the better wrestler, but Medeiros is quite a good grappler and dangerous enough on the mat to create some issues. Now, both have big, glaring issues when you look at their stats. For Vannata, overall in his career, he is 1-3-2 in decisions. That means he has won 1 time when going the distance on 6 occasions. He's had a difficult time outworking opponents, and to further raise concern of that stat, in the UFC, he's winless in 5 decisions, 0-3-2, 2 draws, trio of defeats. He just hasn't had success. His style does not equate to winning a fight with the judges. For Yancy, he's not gone to decision that much. He's 3-1 overall, but he's finished 12 opponents, 8 by knockout. But for him, he's also been stopped on 4 occasions, which is something with Lando Vannata looking at saying he's got some stopping power. He does have some submission skills. He's got knockout power in his hands and his feet, as we saw. He certainly is capable of maybe reproducing the issues that Medeiros has had and finishing him. When you look at the guys that have stopped Medeiros, though, Donald Cerrone, Dustin Poirier, Gregor Gillespie, and the thumb injury with Habilov, which kind of inflates those numbers slightly, it's not like he's getting knocked out by chumps. So the question is, does Vannata fit into that category? Right now, I'm not too sure. He's also been hurt in fights. We saw the Francisco Trinaldo fight. He got hurt on multiple occasions. He was able to tough it out and rally, but ultimately he lost that matchup. Now, the thing with Vannata, and the reason his decisions have become such an issue, is he has trouble with his just overall output and activity. His opponents routinely land more strikes, and part of the reason is Vannata likes to throw flashy techniques, and instead he lets his opponents push the pace with more conventional, more effective, more high percentage offense, and that's where he gets himself in trouble. He's had times where he just finds himself getting picked apart, Diakese was landing leg kicks. He was just getting beaten up by a quicker fighter who was making it simple and being effective. Now, Medeiros' volume and aggression is going to be the key to success here. He needs to use his length well, push forward, but at the same time keep Vannata on the outside. Be aggressive, but don't allow Vannata to close that distance when he moves forward. My apologies. But it's also the same thing. It also opens Medeiros up to taking some damage, which is the reason for his high number of finished defeats. He's willing to mix it up and move forward. Vannata will most likely need a stoppage in this matchup for the most part based on his numbers in decisions. He could do it with his hands. He could do it on the mat. He is a good grappler. With Medeiros out for over a year, he could get off to a bit of a slow start, or it could lead him to seeing him have a bit of a healed up body and some improved technique. Ultimately, I think Vannata struggled in the UFC. His style doesn't translate well at this level, especially in decisions when he's forced to outwork guys if he can't get the finish. Medeiros, I think, is going to outwork him for the duration of the fight, defend some takedowns, and just land more offense, work that jab, and bust Lando up. And my prediction is Yancy Medeiros to defeat Lando Vannata by decision. In the UFC's flyweight division, we have former title contender, the 12-4, the Taz-Mexican Devil, Ray Borg, taking on the 16-1 Brazilian Rogerio Bontorin in a matchup that is very crucial for the newly developing flyweight division. The potential winner of this could be a contender for the title fight once we have a champion crowned, especially considering neither one of these guys have faced either individual who could walk away with the title in the upcoming matchup. Borg went 5-2 in the UFC prior to losing to Demetrius Johnson for the title in a fight. He got finished, but he put up a good showing. He moved to 135 where he went 1-1, which is, it was a tough go. He had a lot of distractions to the side of the cage, so you have to, sympathize there. For Bontorin, he's won 4 in a row, including an upset win over Magomed Bibliatov, who came in, it was a split decision. Bibliatov came in with a lot of hype and ultimately didn't live up to it. It's been cut by the UFC since. And then he beat Julian Paiva via cut. Early TKO. I like Paiva. I had Paiva in that matchup. So 2 big wins for Bontorin, and a win here over Borg puts him in position to potentially contend for a title. Would not be shocked to see him fighting for a title if he wins this matchup. You might need one more win. Physically, Bontorin 1 inch taller. He'll have a 4 inch reach advantage, and he's 1 year older than the American. Now, Borg's style is pretty straightforward. It's effective, but pretty straightforward. He uses takedowns, top control. His striking is fairly limited, not because he's not good, but because he doesn't rely on it that much. Move forward, get on top, transition until you either grind out a decision or set up a submission. He's got both in his back pocket. He's very difficult to handle. Now, that being said, it doesn't necessarily equate to success. Against Kenney in a fight, I picked Kenney to win. Borg landed 7 takedowns and did not win that fight. He was unable to secure the victory, couldn't hold top position, couldn't do enough on the feet, and that cost him. As I said, Borg's striking is not world-beating. He uses it to pressure, but it's not something he's going to beat a guy with solely on that strength for the majority of the fight. Let's keep that in mind. For Bontorin, he did give up some takedowns against Bibliatov, but he's very good at countering those takedowns with positional scramble after the fact. He was able to get out of some bad spots, get to some better spots, get back to his feet. He had his own success as well. Now, that's important here because when you look at what Borg did in his last matchup, and yes, it was at 135 pounds, but Borg found himself locked in some back and forth scenarios on the ground, taken down, giving up position at times, getting caught in some bad spots. He went for a couple submissions, didn't get them, and as a result lost the positional battle momentarily. He cannot afford to do that against Bontorin, who's a very good grappler in his own right with a lot more submission victories. Now, Borg did secure that last win because he outworked his opponent who faded in the 3rd round. Outworked him, pressed the pace, took him down, top control, and just tired him out and got the edge as a result. It was a little questionable leading up to that final round. For Bontorin, he's the more active and aggressive striker. Borg usually lands between 15 and 35 significant strikes throughout the duration of the bout, and that includes when having solid top control. Bontorin's going to throw a lot more than that. He's going to land a lot more than that. He needs to land more here, and I expect the grappling exchange will be back and forth. Both guys will have their moments. I don't like the way Borg tends to go for submissions and give up position once in a while. He's an effective top position player. He can get to your back and be very strong in that position. And if he can get that mojo going, look for him to have a lot of success. I think Bontorin will be able to stifle it, defend it, and avoid it. Borg cutting back down to 125 pounds is a bit of a concern, because he had issues making weight before, and now we're fighting at altitude. Also, something to be aware of. I know he will probably be the hometown favorite here, coming from, I believe he comes from Texas or from this area, so it's certainly, being American as well, he'll be supported. I think we're seeing a very close fight here. I think we're going to see a split decision. I think Bontorin here to continue his momentum, use his striking to edge this out, and my prediction is Rogerio Bontorin to defeat Ray Borg by decision. Up next, we're in the UFC's lightweight divisions. A pair of relatively fresh out of the box UFC fighters go head to head as the 14-4 debuting Brock Weaver takes on the 10-3 UFC sophomore Rodrigo Vargas. Now, looking at this matchup, Vargas made his debut on short notice last August. He lost a decision and a 2-fight winning streak. He had won 6 of 7 and was coming in, as an older fighter, but still having had lots of success. Weaver has won 7 in a row, including a decision in the Contender Series that got him the nod last August. Physically, Weaver 4 inches taller with a 2-inch reach advantage, and he is the younger fighter by 6 years. Now, Vargas has finished 9 out of his 10 wins. 6 in the first round. He is 1 and 2 decisions, which gives an indication that there should be some concern about when he can't get his fighter out of there and he's drawn into a longer battle. That's certainly going to create some issues. Now, his debut, he spent the majority of it on his back, defending top pressure, didn't show us a lot. I would think he'll have a better chance here to put on a bit more of a show and showcase some of his skills. Now, Weaver, in his Contenders debut, gave up a very quick takedown, stayed calm, which I really like to see, got vertical very quickly, and started engaging his opponent. He fought a very gritty fight. It was a very close fight. I'm not even sure if I watched it. It wasn't definitive as far as I'm concerned. He put together a good performance, but it was very close. He simply, I think he just out-toughed his opponent. Let's put it this way. He did a lot more damage overall as far as I can see, even though the positional control kind of went the other direction, but he turned it on in the later stages and kind of worked his way to victory. He almost has a very Nick Nate Diaz-esque demeanor in the cage. He's very tough, he's willing to engage, but he mixes in his wrestling, which can be a very effective tool. Now, Vargas is a little stiff in his approach. Again, as I said, he has limited experience outside of the opening round, which is very concerning. And while Weaver takes damage, he keeps coming forward, and he throws that combination of wrestling and pressure-based striking his opponent. He'll work in some clinch fighting as well, and that's going to be a major issue for Vargas. And I keep talking about the altitude. It's not as bad as it has been in other locations, but it still could play a bit of a factor here, especially for fighters that might be predisposed to having cardio issues. You look at this and you think Vargas is probably going to have a little bit of a slowdown. Whether Weaver wears him down with pressure, or shows he can exploit that questionable takedown defense and takes him down and wears him out with wrestling, the submission, I think, will be there to eventually pick up. And my prediction is Brock Weaver to defeat Rodrigo Vargas by submission. In a very crucial women's flyweight bout, the 10-5 Montana Dela Rosa takes on the 12-6 Mara Romero Borella in a matchup that could very well have future contender implications for the winner. Now, Dela Rosa is coming off a very difficult loss to the aforementioned Andrea Lee. She took a good beating in that fight, showed her toughness, showed her durability and willingness to keep attacking even though she was getting the worst of it. She had won 4 in a row, 3 in the UFC, and all by submission to turn some heads. For Borella, she was 2-1 inside the octagon with a loss to title challenger Caitlin Chukagian. And then she arguably was ahead against Lauren Murphy, who we've also talked about, when she got finished in the 3rd round. I actually got that one fight wrong. I had Borella to win that fight. This actually kind of works as a consolation round for a mini tournament that saw Lee take on Dela Rosa, Borella take on Murphy. We just saw Lee and talked about Lee and Murphy facing off, with Murphy narrowly winning that matchup, and now we have the consolation round here as well. Physically, Dela Rosa 1 inch taller, but Borella will have a 1 inch reach advantage. Dela Rosa is 9 years younger than her counterpart. Now, for Montana, her approach to winning, again, pretty straightforward. Again, I said this about Ray Borg. It's not a bad thing if you're effective at it. Obviously, we want to see layers and diversification, but we know what they want to do here. She's a jiu-jitsu purple belt. She has a good wrestling background. She has 8 of her 10 wins have come by submission, 3 in the UFC, and she wants to come into this fight and take her opponent down. Her decisions aren't great. Her decision record, she lost 2 to start her career. So that's a little bit dismissive, indicative. It skews the numbers of her actual decision record. And her last 3 losses have been against top-level competition. Mackenzie Dern, and Cynthia Calvillo, and the aforementioned Lee. All very capable grapplers, all good fighters, either good on the mat or able to defend. And so she's not losing to scrubs by any stretch of the imagination. Now, it's worth noting, when she fought Lee, she took her down 5 times, just couldn't hold her down and got pieced up on the feet and lost the fight as a result. Prior to that, 2 takedowns against Chasm in a submission. She submitted Ostovich. Actually, she got taken down by Christina Marks, but got the submission in that fight. So she's very good. She's very capable of being offensive once on the mat in almost any position. I like the way she closes the distance, gets in tight. She's good at controlling and dumping her opponent on the ground. She'll land some solid strikes and, again, work her way to a good spot on the ground. Now, for Borella, she won by submission in her debut, which caught a lot of people off guard. She has taken on each one of her opponents, with the exception, and at least once, and the exception of Santos, she took her down twice. Now, her striking exchange rate is close. It's actually a negative right now. She gets hit more often than she hits her opponents. And her takedown game is not overwhelming. Again, 1-2 in the one fight. She doesn't land a lot of takedowns, but she has 5-1 decisions. But it's worth noting as well, over her last 5 decision fights, she's 4-1 with a trio of her wins coming by split. So she's winning narrow fights, which can be a good thing. It also could be a bit of a concerning thing, because as you climb the ranks in levels of competition, it becomes more and more difficult to edge those fights out. She had trouble dealing with the pressure of Murphy at times, who was able to keep her backing up, which was concerning. In this fight, Borella absolutely has to keep this fight standing. Bang it out on the feet, force Dela Rosa to stay vertical, use her takedown defense, or get back up just like Andrea Lee did, and force her to stay on the feet. Even if she does, her volume isn't overwhelming. And, DLR is going to move forward. She's going to put pressure on her. She's going to land her own strikes. And I'm not sure Borella has enough offense if she can't land takedowns. I don't know if she wants to land takedowns here. So certainly that's an advantage for the American. Look for Dela Rosa to pressure on the feet, clinch, land takedowns, hold top control, and eventually get to a spot where she's get into a good spot here, most likely taking her back. I wasn't impressed with the way Borella folded up against Murphy. I'm not saying she folded, but she took some damage and just shut down. And I think Dela Rosa showed how much tougher she is in her last bout, and I like that. I think her skill set is better than what Borella brings to the cage as far as the grappling. And my prediction is Montana Dela Rosa to defeat Andrea Borella by submission. Prior to my next prediction, I referred to her as Borella, as Andrea Borella. That's 100% correct. It's Mara Romero Borella, so my apologies for that incorrect pronunciation. Up next, though, we are in the UFC's welterweight division for the co-main event of the evening as Diego Sanchez, UFC and MMA pioneer, 29-12-0, takes on Michel Pereira, who comes in with a record of 23 wins and 10 losses. Now, this is a co-main event because of how crazy it stands to be, as both guys are very unique individuals, and it should be just a fun fight. Now, Diego's coming off a loss to Michael Chiesa. It ended a 2-fight winning streak, which saw him have a little bit of a resurgence. Fights he got over, Colin White? No. Battle Cat White, and TKO victory over Mickey Gall. 2 fights I got correct, actually, in both those. For Pereira, he dispatched Danny Roberts in his debut, a fight I got wrong, winning it by flying knee in under 2 minutes, before losing another fight I got wrong, which most of us did, to short-notice debutante Canadian and lightweight Tristan Connolly, in a very feel-good story. Now, Pereira is a massive welterweight, 3 inches taller than Sanchez, 1 inch reach advantage, and he's the younger man by 12 years. Big man, shocking he makes weight, definitely has to cut a lot. He has 10 wins by knockout, 6 by submission, but he's 6-8 in decisions, and over his last 10 fights to go 3 rounds, he's just 5-5. He is 11-9 outside of round number 1, so he's almost a 500 fighter when he gets beyond the first 5 minutes, which absolutely is something to pay attention to. That tells us a lot why the fight against Connolly went the way it did. He's a big dude. He has missed weight before. He throws a lot of high-risk, very physically demanding techniques that if they don't connect and they don't account for something, they certainly can be draining. If they aren't effective, he will start to slow down. He starts to get tired. He's far less effective overall, and he's susceptible to being defeated. That's what happened to him. Now, how has Diego Sanchez found his recent success, which is crazy to think in 2020 we're still talking about Diego Sanchez? What Diego does, he does it with takedowns and a grinding top position presence. He outworks his opponents. He just breaks them down and does it. He did it to very good grapplers in White, Held, and Gall. Guys who can all do damage on the ground. He nullified that, avoided getting knocked out on the feet or getting beaten up on the feet, and won the fights as a result. Sanchez has had issues with fighters who can outbox him. But here's the question. Can Pereira do that? Is Pereira the type who's going to, throw functional offense at him and throw a lot of it at him and just wear him down? I'm not sure he will. Pereira's going to need to counter his forward pressure. He could land something, catch Diego coming forward, and just absolutely obliterate him. Flying knee, something flashy, and take Diego out. Sanchez has only been stopped once at welterweight, though. At lightweight, he got stopped by Lozon, BJ, and Elia Quinta. Maybe the cut was too much for him. Matt Brown did stop him at welterweight, and he's been hurt before, and that's certainly a concern. But I don't like the way Pereira started to slow down against Connolly. He was backtracking, he spent time on his back, he just didn't look good. Sanchez still has solid cardio, he still has good pressure, his grappling and takedowns are there to be had, and again, even if he might not be able to get Pereira down in the very opening stages of the fight, but if he keeps close to him, keeps pressing forward, forces him to fight off his back foot, pushes him into the cage, he's going to tire him out, he's going to wear him down. Sanchez is also fighting at home in New Mexico, which will be a massive push for a guy who's already be amped up to the fucking gills for this matchup. But the motivation is there. Also, again, we've talked about it before. If Pereira has cardio issues, which he tends to have throughout his career, with the potential increase in altitude, even if it's not as significant as other locations, it could be a major concern. Look for Diego Sanchez to press forward, put him on the cage, grind on him, and eventually start putting him on the back as he slows down. And my prediction is Diego Nightmare Sanchez to upset and defeat Michel Pereira we'll go by decision. Finally, in the main event of the evening, we're in the UFC's light heavyweight division for a rematch as the 13-4-0 Corey Anderson takes on the 25-8 Polish Jan Blachowicz in a very important fight for both of these individuals. After John Jones defeated Dominic Reyes, the winner of this fight potentially could find themselves on the cusp of a title shot or get it. They're both doing well. They've had success recently. There's not a lot of contenders lining up. A lot of people want to see a Reyes rematch. I wouldn't mind seeing Jones fight one of these two guys and Dominic Reyes either get a bit of a break and recover or get him in a fight he can win and then set up that rematch. Let's see it happen. I don't know. Now, this is actually they're going to run it back from a 2015 bout that happened at UFC 191 in Vegas, which was a decision win for Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson comes to this having won 4 in a row, including defeating Glover Teixeira, which he took on short notice. I think I can't remember. One of them took it on short notice. Ilir Latifi, and a TKO victory over Johnny Walker, which caught a lot of people off guard and has really put him in a position to contend. A spot that he's wanted for a long time and called for, and maybe is in a position now to actually realize that opportunity. For Blachowicz, he has won back-to-back fights over former middleweight champion Luke Rockhold, former Strikeforce middleweight champion Jacare Souza, which he won by split decision. He is 6-1 over his last 7. He also has victories over Nikita Krylov, Jimmy Manuwa, Jerry Cannonier. His only loss to Diego Santos, who went on to fight for the title. Now, both fighters had points of struggle, and they've rebounded from that. Anderson went 1-3 before his current streak. Jan went 1-4 prior to his current streak, and really had a lot of difficulty getting back in contention. Now, when you look at that first fight, it was a fairly wide margin victory for Corey Anderson. He outlanded Yan 84-20. He had 4 takedowns to Yan's 1 takedown. When you look at the first round, that was the closest round of all of it. The striking was close, and we'll get into a more breakdown. But in rounds 2 and 3, it was just a wide margin. You look at round 2, Anderson outlanded Jan Blachowicz 43-3 with 1 takedown. In round 3, he outlanded him 20-0 with 2 takedowns. So you can kind of see where this fight was going. Anderson landed all 4 of his takedown attempts as well, so that's worth noting. He took him down 4 times on 4 attempts, so that has to be taken aware. Has Blachowicz improved his takedown defense? Is it still vulnerable? I don't know. Now, Yan scored the early takedown in the fight. Yan did. Put him on the ground. Sorry, my apologies. Put him on the ground fairly quickly, but couldn't hold him down. Anderson took him down later on. Yan did a good job attacking with an armbar and got back up. Again, round 1 was close. Round 2, brief exchange early on. Anderson comes out, lands takedown, prolonged top control. Kind of grinds him out. Round 3, couple of strikes, shoot for a double. Yan very tired, stuck on his back, couldn't get out of the position, lost a decision as a result. Now, big areas of concern coming into this matchup for both guys, and they might have cleared them up, but at least they're worth talking. Anderson has massive cardio. He's got very good cardio. He goes and he goes and he goes, but he has questionable durability. For Blachowicz, he's incredibly durable, but he has questionable cardio. So, these two guys piece together very effectively, and we'll see which one becomes more impactful. Anderson hasn't been knocked out since his 2017 bout against OSP in the third round of a fight he was winning, which has only been 4 fights have transpired since then. For Yan, he has won 3 straight decisions overall, which suggests improved cardio after going 1-4 on the cards to start his UFC run. For Yan to win this fight, I think he needs to score a knockout or a submission. More likely a knockout in the 2 scenarios. He won't be able to match Anderson's cardio, pace, or wrestling over 5 full rounds. For Anderson, he could score a knockout. He's shown some improved power in his hands and improved striking, but it's unlikely. More likely for him to win this fight, he has to go to decision. He can go all 5 rounds without getting hurt. That's huge. That's a big question as well. Can he do it? OSP and Vannata finished him in the 3rd round in both their matchups. Shogun hurt him in every round to negate all the work Corey did in BC and earn a decision. Jan's takedown defense has absolutely improved. It's gotten better, and that suggests he could keep this fight standing and go to work on Corey's questionable durability. But Corey brings better wrestling than most anybody that Yan has recently faced and defeated. When you look at Blachowicz, he has just a single knockout in his last 12 fights, coming over the very chinny Rockhold, who is coming up from middleweight. He does have 2 submission wins, but again, he'll be hard-pressed to get himself in a position to do that against Anderson unless he hurts him. Corey's improved striking, I think, helps him to set up his wrestling, which will be better than the first time they fought. He needs to avoid getting away from what made him win the first fight, though. Punch, 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 change levels, take him down, grind him out. Also, it's worth noting again with Rio Rancho, again, elevation, 5,300 feet. Denver, Colorado is 51 to 5,600. Mexico City is 7,300. So we've talked about this throughout the show. There is some concern that the cardio could be, elevation could affect fighters that are vulnerable. That favors Corey Anderson 100%. Both men are close to the title shot. Who gets there? I think Anderson is going to be the more effective fighter here, and my prediction is Corey Anderson to defeat Jan Blachowicz by decision, possibly TKO if he can wear him out and keep attacking. But again, Corey Anderson gets the victory. So those are my 6 main card predictions for UFC Fight Night. UFC Fight Night 167. All of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Please check them out. Like, subscribe, do all those fun things. I greatly appreciate it. Again, I have ups and I have downs. We get hot, we get cold. Things suck. So hey, it is what it is. The biggest thing with my predictions, and I hope you can see that if you're new to the channel or you're a longtime subscriber, is that even when I'm wrong, I at least provide some solid justification. I will never say, I don't like this fighter, so I'm picking against him. I will never give you some bullshit reason for picking against a fighter. I try and ground everything I provide you with in facts, stats, and other justifiable and understandable logic. Is it always right? Absolutely not. Anybody who tells you they're over 65, 70% over a prolonged period of predicting is absolutely full of shit, and I'll tell you that right now. Anybody can do it for a short period of time. Say, yeah, I'm clipping along at 80%, 75%. I'm doing that well. But when you do it for as long as I've been doing it, you're going to be in the 60% range. Again, you are picking 2 human individuals with limited knowledge of what's going on in their heads, with limited knowledge of what's going on in their camps, how they're feeling physically on that particular day, how they are emotionally, and you're picking to try and figure out which one of those 2 will come out on top. It's a very difficult sport. Keep it up for all those people who are trying it. And again, thank you for tuning in, guys. Follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions. Enjoy the fights. We've got a lot of fights coming up. Bet packs are there for sale if you're interested. And again, I'll talk to you after the bell. Take care, folks.